Our second thesis today is Annabelle, and her topic is, I think we're waiting for someone else to come in. Okay. Okay, well, let's get started. This is Annabelle. Her topic is about Disney, which is always cool. It's the kind of thing, my 30-year-old daughter still watches Disney movies all the time. And I've seen, Stephanie, don't you have like a Disney screen, Disney on your computer? Yeah, I think so too. So everyone loves Disney. And so it's a great topic, especially as we see how Disney has sort of transformed over the years. These are Anna's words. I would like to thank God for guiding me throughout this process, to all the teachers who gave me advice, my advisor, Mr. Minnow, for his meaningful comments, Mr. Wade and Ms. Maymay for the time and hard work you've given all of us. To my family and friends, thank you for your endless support and honest feedback. And to my brother, thank you for practicing with me. Her title is When the Clock Strikes Woke, Why Disney Must Return to Its Authentic Storytelling. Give me just a couple of seconds and I'll tell you when you can start. All right, you can start when ready.
The light shuts down. Silence falls over the room as the white screen radiates its light. The screen shows the depths of the blue sea, with colorful fishes swimming all around. Glowing algae and vibrant corals paint the ocean floor. You're underwater, with the song Under the Sea exploding over your ears. Then, an enchanting melody drifts in, and a familiar silhouette. You looked around you, and you see Ariel. Wait, but something about her feels different. She's not the Ariel that you remember. For decades, Ariel has been defined by her striking blue eyes, fair skin, and bright red hair. Yet, behind the mask of diversity, The Little Mermaid 2023 remake deviates from its animation by casting an African American actress, Hailey Bailey, as Ariel. No word captures Disney's recent transformation more precisely than woke, a term that describes the progressive change reshaping the studio's brand identity. For generations, Disney made us believe in wonder. Yet, Disney's whimsical tales are now poisoned by the woke agenda, reflecting the complex modern world. And that brings us to a question. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Will the woke agenda be Disney's fall? Now let's start with Disney's history. Disney began with a young artist named Walter Elias Disney. Walt and his brother Roy founded the Disney Brothers Studio in 1923. 5 years later, the studio launched the shorts Oswald Black Rabbit, marking its early success. However, not long after Disney's breakthrough, Universal Studios held Oswald's copyright. While this may seem like a disaster, that situation gives birth to Mickey Mouse, a character we all have grown up with. Now let's discuss the history of woke. After George Floyd's murder, Black Lives Matter became a global movement. Social media platforms were flooded with the phrase, "Stay woke." The term woke emerged in the early 20th century in the Black activist community. But woke has drifted from Black activism, now covering issues from racial inequality to gender discrimination and LGBTQ rights. Woke advocates for marginalized communities and challenges inequalities. And naturally, wokeism impacts Hollywood, with modern films showing woke values of inclusion, diversity, and equity. These days, however, people often use the word woke to criticize movies for forcing political agendas into entertainment. Straying from Walt's vision, Disney has planted the woke agenda into the storytelling such as the live-action Mulan, The Little Mermaid, Snow White, and the animated Lightyear and Strange World. All of these will be the focus of this thesis. With children as Disney's primary audience, sensitive topics like gender identity and sexual orientation influence young minds. A child's mind is like a growing seed. Good morals will produce strong plants. But enforcing shallow agendas, well, it's like placing the seed in poor soil. It inhibits a child's growth. Reactions from the public are about as diverse as the groups that Disney tries to appeal to. Some praise Disney for increasing representation in its films. Others argue that the woke agenda socializes children with progressive ideologies. With that, Disney should return to highlighting its authentic storytelling instead of focusing on the woke agenda, for 3 reasons. First, Disney loses its original purpose. Woke ideologies will have disadvantageous moral consequences, and woke storytelling offers shallow stories for children. Firstly, Disney's political shift has led to the loss of its original purpose in providing genuine family-friendly entertainment. Disney modifies their stories with superficial diversity. Now, imagine Ariel, a character our childhood selves idolize. Disney looked at her and decided that she needs to be modernized, to be diverse. And so they cast Hailey Bailey, an African American actress. It's like recoloring a beloved portrait. Bailey's casting does not reimagine the story. It just changes the palette, altering Ariel's appearance to appear diverse. This is what we call colorblind casting. Colorblind casting selects actors based on talent, regardless of race, which may seem as a form of justice, but is actually a shallow form of inclusion, because it disregards the context of the story. The Snow White remake goes one step further. Snow White's fair skin has been the icon of the fairy tale. Yet, Disney re-swapped Snow White by casting a Latina actress, Rachel Zegler. They also replaced the 7 dwarfs with CGI, instead of casting dwarf actors in the roles. The question is, if Disney truly aims to uplift the marginalized, why change the lead character's race, but exclude dwarf actors from the roles that were literally written for them? Furthermore, the woke agenda tarnishes Disney's core brand identity by focusing on political messaging. Walt had one vision for his company, which is delivering captivating stories that will resonate with families around the world. Beyond its engaging narrative, people love the 1998 Mulan for its iconic characters, particularly Mushu. Mushu is Mulan's companion. He's a small dragon playing the role of a big brother. Everything he says has meaning, whether it's to make us laugh or think. He mirrors Mulan's growth and gives the animation its soul. Now, the problem with the new directors is that they assume Mushu's words are purely comedic and that the remake's realism can't accommodate the animated dragon. So they replaced him with a silent maternal phoenix. As stated by the director, the dragon symbolizes masculinity, while the phoenix, femininity. Unlike the animation where Mulan and Mushu work as a team, the remake presents Mulan as more self-reliant. The phoenix appears only when Mulan is in need, but mostly leaves her on her own. Mulan 2020 departs from a story of courage to a story about modernized female empowerment. Additionally, Disney misrepresents cultures by reshaping narratives to serve the woke agenda, thus exposing children to distorted portrayals of culture. Mulan 2020 received criticisms for misrepresenting Chinese culture. In the remake, Mulan has a superpower, which doesn't exist in the original animation. Mulan's superpower is called Qi. The story presents Qi as a power exclusive to men and must be hidden by women. Yet, in the Chinese culture, Qi is a concept tied to universal life force. Disney also replaced the dragon Mushu with a quiet female phoenix. Mushu is a Chinese dragon, symbolizing power, protection, and wisdom. On the other hand, a phoenix is from Egyptian mythology, which represents rebirth. What could have been an accurate representation of Chinese culture instead became a culture presented through a Western lens, and thus leave children with a distorted view of Chinese culture. Secondly, as a family friendly company, it's unethical for Disney to instill the woke agenda because it harms children. The woke agenda introduces complex themes about sexuality before children are developmentally ready to process them. In the movie Strange World, Disney presents a gay, dark skinned teenage boy. In the animated Lightyear, they display a same sex relationship between female characters. This is what Disney calls normal. Now imagine children watching these LGBTQ representations on screen. Children as young as 5 or even 4 years old. Children are like sponges. They absorb what they see. Then from what they see, they do. A large number of families argue that children are unready to process such ideologies because the woke culture destroyed their innocence. Moreover, woke ideologies in Disney movies negatively influence children's worldview. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and so are movies. 1998 Mulan improves herself through hard work, proving that she's just as capable as any other man. 2020 Mulan, however, is born strong and simply learns to embrace her powerful self. The original had Mulan fighting for something special, her family. The remake, on the other hand, frames her journey as a duty, mostly serving and fighting for the emperor. Now consider what a child takes away from the story. Not the importance of hard work, courage, or self-discovery. Rather, children learn that only some are born special, and that authority defines one's worth. The 1937 Snow White tells the story of bravery and kindness. Snow White is a gentle, nurturing figure to those around her. The original animation delivers a simple, yet timeless message that kindness itself is strength. In the remake, however, the movie emphasizes Snow White's identity to be the fair and fearless leader she's destined to be. It leaves children with a message that power defines one's worth. Children bite the apple without knowing the dangers it contains. Likewise, exposure to Disney's woke agenda challenges traditional family values, resulting in conflicting ideas for children to process. In the movie Strange World, Searcher Clade, the father of the gay protagonist, Ethan, openly supports his homosexual relationship. Lightyear features a same-sex kiss between a character named Alicia Hawthorne and her wife. And Disney presents their relationship as normal, as if it's just another kind of family. As Christians, we believe that God created man and woman from his image, each with their own unique roles. The Bible clearly defines marriage as an intimate relationship between a man and a woman, nothing in between. Promoting the acceptance of LGBTQ relationships forces children to choose. Now children are stuck in a moral dilemma, thinking which from those two worldviews they should follow. Thirdly, good storytelling delivers effective messages. Thus, Disney must return to its authentic storytelling as it presents heartfelt moral messaging. The woke agenda replaces complex character arcs with underdeveloped characters that lack necessary flaws. We all remember these character arcs. We relate to stories because we see flawed characters and feel their emotions. In the 1998 version, Mulan transforms from a clueless amateur into a skilled warrior through her dedication, making her triumph genuinely earned. The 2020 remake, however, tells a different story. Mulan is now a heroine from the start, gifted with the superpower Qi. She doesn't struggle to lift weights or keep up with her fellow army because she's already strong. Without her struggles and vulnerability, Will this be the Mulan whose journey teach children about perseverance? Additionally, Disney's authentic storytelling integrates diversity naturally into the story, while the woke agenda treats diversity merely as a decoration. Authentic diversity is like the bread. It's fulfilling. Meanwhile, agenda-driven diversity is like the sprinkles on the bread. They help add flavor, but are unnecessary. Meaningful representation means creating characters with complex arcs and unique identities that resonate with their culture. We can see this from Moana and Black Panther. Nonetheless, for inclusivity, Ariel sisters in the Little Mermaid remake are somehow all from various ethnicities. Yet, none of them have a meaningful arc nor significance to the story. It's as if Disney is swapping races just to tick boxes, showing how superficial they are. Last, while the woke agenda appeals to specific groups of people, Disney's authentic storytelling focuses on timeless, universal themes, relevant to people of all ages. Lion King shows that the dark past doesn't define one's future. A child in Indonesia and a mother in America can feel Simba's struggles equally. Beauty and the Beast shows that true beauty isn't defined by physical appearance, but defined by the heart within. Now, Disney displays unnecessary ideological messages in its recent films. Strange World prioritizes progressive representation rather than an adventure story with universal values. The same way goes with Lightyear. Some might argue that society is constantly changing. Thus, Disney must return to its authentic storytelling as it to adapt to the progressive society. While it's true that social activism has transformed the way people view the world, it's not necessary for Disney to adopt the progressive trend, as Disney's strength lies in its storytelling. Disney doesn't only present stories, they bring characters to life, allowing children to live in the fantasy world they created. Pete Docter, the Pixar director of Inside Out, states, "If you don't have a good film and strong characters, then you don't have anything down the road." Others might argue that the woke agenda enables Disney to challenge its rigid gender roles, therefore achieving gender equality. To an extent, the woke agenda may seem to promote gender equality by transforming passive damsels into independent leaders. However, Disney's woke movies distort morals and present characters with a lack of growth. Disney's live-action remakes focus on making female characters powerful rather than portraying strength through vulnerability. In the remake, Ariel rescues the defenseless Prince Eric, making Prince Eric seem useless while Ariel all-powerful. Likewise, Mulan's depiction as a warrior with superpowers removes the growth she experiences and journey she endures in the original animation. We have explored the reasons why Disney should not prioritize its woke agenda and focus on its authentic storytelling. Like a ship without a compass, Disney strays away from its original purpose, losing sight of the reasons that established it as a company trusted by families worldwide. They disregard the moral consequences of depicting woke themes in children's entertainment. Moreover, while authentic storytelling delivers effective messages, woke ones distort them. A ship without a compass does not sink immediately. It simply drifts until the shore is no longer visible. The ship loses its direction, and alongside it, the purpose that started the journey. Well, that's what happens when storytelling starts to serve the woke agenda. Nonetheless, the ship never stops sailing. It simply needs the compass to be picked up again, for storytellers to remember who the journey was always for, so that the next time the screen lights up, parents can sit beside their child without worry, knowing that the proper story unfolds for the proper audience. We can be the ones picking up the compass. But how? First, we can start by streaming movies rooted in authentic storytelling. We can also use various social media platforms to raise concerns about Disney's politicized contents. Parents can also set boundaries on what their children watch, making sure that children watch the appropriate movies meant for them. we can be the ones who navigate Disney's way back. No forced messages in frame. Just a child, a story, and a world of countless possibilities. Thank you.
Great job, Anna. Our panelists today are Miss Stephanie and Miss Erin. How about we let Miss Stephanie go first?
Hi, Annabelle.
Hi, Miss.
Firstly, I want to thank you for bringing up this topic because I know this has been a widespread discussion across social media. So, the first thing I want to ask you is how can you differentiate between being woke and just being inclusive of broader audience who were previously represented?
I think that the difference lies in the intention itself. For example, for woke, they only display like specific representations to take an exercise like diversity initiative check. But for the other one, being inclusive, they actually integrate diversity into the story's foundation. For example, we can compare the Little Mermaid remake. They only changed the races of Ariel to appear inclusive. But we can use the example of Encanto, Coco, and Moana. That is when diversity is naturally integrated into the story.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And as we know, right now, wokeism is not restricted to only racial or social issues. Nowadays, it also involves the inclusivity of LGBTQ communities. So I want to ask, as a Christian, how should you react to it?
Okay, thank you for the question. As a Christian, we can see that LGBTQ representation isn't in line with Christian values, right? Because God says that a relationship is between a man and a woman in terms of marriage. And Disney displaying the woke agenda, it's like indoctrinating children with these progressive ideologies and normalizing LGBTQ representation on screen. So I think it can harm children.
But let's say it's not that I don't agree with you, but I want to ask. Let's say the movie teaches courage, it teaches sacrifice, it teaches love, kindness, acceptance. If the movie includes all of those values, which I believe are Christian values as well, but they include LGBTQ storyline into the movies, would they be considered as a woke movie?
Okay, thank you for the question.
Yeah.
Yes, I think it's still considered a woke movie because back again to the definition. Originally, woke is to advocate for marginalized communities and promote social change. But after some time, it has changed in meaning, and people use the word woke to criticize movies for forcing these ideologies into the movie. And I feel like and I believe that if we put this LGBTQ representation, regardless of the message behind it, it's still Disney trying to appear inclusive in terms of just representing them as symbols.
Okay, so as we know right now, this community is not a small part of our world anymore. It actually kind of increasing in percentage. If Disney, let's treat Disney as a business right now. If they want to, keep their business, how should they cater to these increasing communities? How should they cater to these communities without being woke?
Okay, thank you for the question again. So back again to my thesis. This is why I support Disney should return to its authentic storytelling. We can see like from the recent data, Disney's authentic storytelling, when they incorporate authentic storytelling, the revenue increases and people want to watch these movies. But if we look at the recent ones, like The Little Mermaid, Snow White, and other woke movies, the revenue has decreased, and people, even parents are concerned about this. That's why they have expressed their concerns in social media by not allowing children to watch these movies.
Thank you for your answer. And I think I have one last question. Is that okay? In your opinion, do you have any, because what you presented earlier, most of these newer movies which resulted in bigger box office are actually not those that are remade, right? They are actually like newer stories. So if you are given opportunities to remake a Disney classic that can still be inclusive without being woke, do you have one in mind? And if you have, why and how would you remake these movies?
To be inclusive. Can you give me time to think? Okay. I think that we can remake Princess and the Frog because, like back again, Princess and the Frog is like a black representation, right? A black princess, and it's like different from other Disney movies. And I feel like by remaking that movie, we can like give opportunities for black actors to play in the movie. So it's inclusive without trying to swap races.
Okay, thank you for your answer, Miss Erin.
All right. First, I just want to say thank you. Yes, this topic is very interesting, and I know, again, it's something that's debated in social media. And so far, thank you for all your answers to Ms. Stephanie's questions. So first, I want to ask, so you praised the 1998 animated Mulan for its authentic storytelling and character growth, while criticizing the 2020 remake for its modern female empowerment. Yet, I believe at the time of the release, the 1998 Mulan was widely celebrated and yet criticized for being a progressive feminist departure from traditional Disney princesses. So how do you differentiate between a film that is naturally evolving authentically in its storytelling and one that is pushing a forced woke agenda?
Okay, thank you for the question. So the animation, it's pushing feminist values because it shows how Mulan transforms. She undergo a transformation from being a clueless, just amateur, into someone who's capable to fight in the army because she had to dedicate herself and work hard. And yeah, she had to train herself a lot of ways. It shows that women can be as capable as men if they try to if they work hard and if they incorporate those kind of values. But in the remake, they try to make Mulan already powerful from the start, and she doesn't have any growth, which is why it's woke. It's like trying to deliver the message that women can only be as powerful as men if they have a power within them.
All right, thank you for your answer. All right, next I'd like to ask, you argue that race-swapping characters, like casting Halle Berry as Ariel, offers a shallow form of inclusion or tokenism, and contrast this with Moana, where diversity is the foundation of the story. If Disney were to exclusively create new original stories centered on marginalized communities instead of altering existing characters, would you completely absolve them of pushing a woke agenda?
Okay, thank you. So, what I mean by Disney swapping races as a shallow form of inclusion is they just change the races to appear diverse. They don't make new stories that incorporate that diversity inside. So even if it appears inclusive to black audiences, it doesn't offer them a story. It doesn't offer black audiences a story rooted in their diversity.
All right, thank you. All right, and then next, so your paper explicitly uses a Christian perspective in the book of Genesis to argue that Disney's portrayal of LGBTQ plus relationships creates moral ambiguity and challenges traditional family values. As Disney is a global secular entertainment company catering to a multitude of religions and culture, is it reasonable to expect them to adhere strictly to the traditional values of one specific faith?
Okay, thank you for the question. Back again, why I said that Disney should return to its authentic storytelling is because it gives and displays universal themes relevant to people of all ages. And like if we see from the past movies in like Snow White, Aurora, and Princess and the Frog, they have like universal values like courage, determination, working hard that applies to everyone. That's why it's successful. Meanwhile, for the woke agenda, it's only to appeal to specific groups of people. That's why it alienates core audiences, which some are traditional, from coming from traditional families.
All right, thank you. One other question I have. So you point out the double standard in Disney replacing the seven dwarfs with CGI characters rather than casting dwarf actors. This is a strong point, but does this decision stem from a woke agenda, or could it be a misguided corporate attempt to avoid any potential controversy regarding caricatures? How do you distinguish between corporate risk management and ideological messaging?
Okay. So, like I've read news that Disney replaced these seven dwarfs with CGI because some complain about it because of some controversial issues. But then back again, if Disney changes the lead character's race, then and then they try to be inclusive and try to uplift the marginalized, why do they not hire dwarf actors in the roles that can actually give them a lot of opportunities?
All right, thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you.
All right. We have a few more minutes. I have a couple of questions. So some would say that if you go way back to the early Disney shows, they were always about putting whatever the current culture and current progressive values in their movies were, right? And that would be before woke, and while most even, a lot of Christians might have agreed with some of the values that were put in the early movies, some didn't. And so some would say this is the natural progression of Disney to now be woke. And in the old days, it was, other things that were a little bit progressive. What would you say to that?
Okay. Back again, I think that Disney's strength lies in its storytelling. And what I define authentic storytelling is first, it has developed characters. And second, it incorporates diversity naturally into the story so people can feel included. Yeah, included. And then third is they display universal values relevant to people of all ages. And this is different from the woke movies now because they only try to appeal to specific groups of people and display certain ideologies, which is why there is this tagline right now, go woke, go broke, which shows how people are exhausted with this woke agenda in movies.
Okay. And so what about, in the old days, people would complain about the fact that, Disney was all about beautiful princesses and, good-looking Prince Charmings, and you have to looks was everything, and that's what they would say then. And so they would say Disney maybe is too focused on good looks, right? And how does that make a difference in what you're trying to say? I mean, is that authentic storytelling to prop up the beautiful princess and the prince who's got great looks too?
Okay, so right, what I said about authentic storytelling is the three components. And I believe that no artwork is perfect, but at least there is a better one that can inspire others. And Disney's past movies are the one that can inspire children. Even like children are trained to be trained to be brave, trained to understand the real world through like their past movies. But in the new movies, they just try to indoctrinate children with these progressive ideologies.
Okay. Some questions from your friends, and some of these may be a little bit overlapping with things you've already talked about. But isn't it okay and right to bring in modern issues? I mean, if we just ignore it, we just ignore the modern cultural issues, or can we bring them into movies at all, or and without being called woke by you and others? What do you think?
We can bring modern values if we teach children something beneficial. But for the woke agenda, they only bring like ideologies from a specific groups to appeal to those people. And like for example, in the Mulan's case, they try to make Mulan very powerful since the start, which can teach children that they are only special if they have something within them. And it can lead to feelings of entitlement, feelings of selfishness.
Okay. And someone else asked the question, don't you think that old movies sort of showcase the idea that women need men for a happy life? And so in a sense, there's other values that maybe not so great either back in those days. What do you think?
Yeah, back again.
Yeah.
I believe that no artwork is perfect. And what I mean by authentic storytelling is not how Disney should portray like these certain stereotypes, but how they can deliver moral messages that can teach children educational values. And also to respond to that, like despite people calling Disney princesses as like damsels in distress or they need a prince, these princesses like Snow White and Aurora, they actually display like a certain personality that makes them shine. Like for example, bravery. Snow White still continues in the original animation. Snow White still continues in the forest, despite like the fear of facing darkness, and she still stands without like breaking down.
Okay. Do our panelists have any other questions? So what about, the idea that old Disney movies, they also sort of deviated from the original story. If you've ever read like this original Cinderella, where the sisters actually do horrible things like cut their own toes off to try to fit into the glass slipper. Couldn't they be more, do you think they should have stuck to the storyline better from the original story? Because they also deviated to make their own points.
Okay. What I mean by authentic storytelling is not originality, but how Disney can present their stories. And if we look at Walt's time when he created stories, it was during the Great Depression era. That's why he wants to bring joy to the children and bring hope. There's like one quote Walt said, that's what we storytellers do. We restore order with imagination and bring hope again and again and again. This is why Disney's stories are made to fit children's needs. If they use like the same stories from the Grimm brothers, then it's like displaying children with dark tales, not like bright ones.
Okay. And so also, what about, you're picking on Disney here, but I think this is common among, all kinds of movies. In fact, all children's TV shows and movies, they all seem to be doing this, right? Is there any one sort of type of children movie or any company that's making children's movies that you would say this is the way to do it, or are they all this way now?
I think because they try to adapt to the progressive trend right now, many entertainment brands try to appeal to this woke movement. We can see from Disney itself. There's like a lot of woke movies in Disney Hotstar. And Netflix. Netflix also displays like a lot of short animations and movies that submit to the woke agenda.
Yeah, very good. I know that there are some sort of family-friendly organizations that make movies, but they're not very popular. Have you seen any of those, and do you like any of those? Are they poor quality or what?
I don't think I have.
Okay. All right, time is up. Thank you, Anna, you did a great job. Okay, we'll meet family and friends and panelists and advisor over here, and we